All right, we're going to call the March 22nd meeting to order. Roll call.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Smith? Mr. Vacula?
Here.
Mr. Murray?
Here.
Mrs. Kiefer?
Here. At this time, I'm going to let everybody know that Mr. Smith is on with us in Zoom today. So he's going to be in front of Mr. Carroll. But we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, at this time, does anyone desire to add, delete, or separate any items of the consent agenda as proposed? No? All right, just need a motion to approve the meeting agenda as presented for the regular board meeting on March 22nd, 2021.
So move. Support.
All right, roll call.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Smith? Mr. Vacula?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mrs. Kiefer?
Yes, motion carries. We need a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting held on February 18th, 2021, and the special board meeting held on March 8th, 2021.
So moved. Support.
Roll call.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Smith? Mr. Vacula?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mrs. Kiefer?
Yes, motion carries. At this time, is there any board members with correspondence? Mr. Carroll? Mr. Samola?
Yes, Carol, I'm here from Ohio Means Jobs, Fulton County, contacted me and to let me know that they were donating $1,000 to the Evergreen prom this year. I'd like to thank them publicly for that donation for our students.
Great. Seeing that there has been no one registered to address the board, we will continue on. Would you like to, though, recognize our guests and visitors?
We have a few visitors with us today. Thank you. If you'd please introduce yourselves.
Thank you very much. Okay, at this time, Mr. Carroll, would you like to go over our financial report?
Mr. Gruber from Meter Investments was planning on being here this meeting. However, he and his family have come down to be ill. So we will probably reschedule next month if that's okay with you guys. All right, for the reports, the very first one is the cash reconciliation. That is all Evergreen funds together. The next report, the cash summary, shows those funds broken down into each fund that we have. If you can see the very third column from the last, that bottom number would represent the same number on the cash reconciliation. So that is all funds all together. The main one that we're looking at is the top one on the line, 001, that is the general fund. The stapled reports are the disbursement summary. Those are all the checks that we have written this month. And the last two, the colored reports, these are for general fund. And this is comparing where we are with the forecast, our revenues up until this point, and just for the month, and comparing last year. That is on the top. And the bottom half, or in the middle, are the expenses. And then at the bottom of the report is our cash balance. And then you can see comparing this year to last year. So overall, we are comparable to last year. And the last report is specifically payroll and benefits and where we are compared to the forecast in the yellow lines at the bottom. So
expecting payroll and benefits to stay on track with last year.
Yes.
at this point? I mean, because we got a quarter left essentially in the school year. So
Correct.
okay.
Yep. Even just looking at the visual graph here, I mean, we are right in line. Same trends. Some of those trends are when we pay supplementals, or like in January when we have the HSA contributions. Those are big pays. So it's right in line with last year. And those are all my reports.
Awesome. Any other questions for Mr. Carroll? Okay, we'll move on to. Did you have one? Okay. We'll move on to our financial section. We need to approve the following summaries and reconciliations we just went over with Mr. Carroll. We need to accept the following donations: $200 anonymous donation to the Student Assistance Fund, $20 from Mary Ellen Zormansky, I'm sorry if I slaughtered that, to the elementary principal account, $30 from Thomas and Jennifer Herr to the class of 2022 account. We need to transfer $500,000 from the general fund to the athletic facilities capital project fund. We need to accept tax rates, to accept the amount and rates determined by the Budget Commission, and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor for the fiscal year 21. This time, I just need a motion to approve the preceding financial motions, reports, and other financial items.
Support.
Questions or discussion? All right, roll call.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Smith, Mr. Vaculek,
Yes.
Mr. Murray, Mrs. Kiefer.
Yes, motion carries. At this time, we'll move on to other business. We need a motion to commence with a first reading of updates to current board policy, which includes new and revised and replacement policies. There's a list there of the following policies that are recommended for approval. You guys just want to read through them and give me a motion.
Full move.
Questions, comments? All right, roll call.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Smith, Mr. Vaculek,
Yes.
Mr. Murray, and Mrs. Kiefer.
Yes, motion carries. We need a motion to authorize the treasurer, Brian Carroll, to advertise for bids and set the day and time for bid openings, as this relates to the renovation and expansion of the existing high school locker rooms, weight room, and athletic offices, and any other related work associated with this project.
Full move. Support.
Questions or discussion?
For the next 2 weeks.
And this is just to requote what Bell has had done before.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Roll call.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Smith, Mr. Vaculek,
Yes.
Mr. Murray, Mrs. Kiefer.
Yes, motion carries. We need a motion to approve the following trip: Evergreen High School cheerleaders to participate in the Universal Cheerleading Association Camp at Great Wolf Lodge, 2501 Great Wolf Drive in Mason, Ohio, 45040. And they'll be June 28th to July 1st. Cheerleaders will be dropped off at camp by a parent or guardian and picked up from a parent or guardian when camp is over. The chaperones will be the head coach, Megan Kronvich.
So move. Support.
Questions or discussion? How many cheerleaders is that? You know? Awesome. Okay. So that's junior varsity and varsity? Okay. Roll call.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Smith, Mr. Vaculek,
Yes.
Mr. Murray,
Yes.
Mrs. Kiefer.
Yes, motion carries. At this time, Mr. Smoller, would you like to take over discussion and information?
Item A, position changes are just informational. Current employees who have shifted job responsibilities within the district. They are not new hires. One being Lindsay Pizak, who did come off the recall list from last year. Second item that I had did touch on the locker room renovation and expansion. Last March, the district was prepared to begin the renovation and expansion of the high school locker rooms and weight room. The project was finalized and sent out to bid. However, with the uncertainty of the COVID pandemic and the state funding cuts, the project was put on hold. This project still needs to be completed, and we believe it's time to move forward. We are confident that construction costs will continue to increase, and waiting any longer to move forward with the project will add to the overall expense. So, looking to get things back where they were last year before the pandemic hit with that project. So, as you just approved the sending it out to bid, we'll have more information at the April meeting, hopefully. The next item I wanted to present on the potential for a league change. So I'm going to step over here. We've got some slides to share with information as we look at the potential for this. Again, a big decision to make. Know that it evokes emotion with the community. There's a long history there. But I think it's something that we need to look at. 2 years ago, we revised the mission statement for the district, building on tradition, committed to excellence, cultivating the future. And as we look at those, three words, the tradition, excellence, and future, how does that factor in for our student athletes? And we've been using the mission statement to determine what is best for our students. And I think it's time to have that conversation looking at athletics as well. My role in this process is to provide the board information. Obviously, this would involve a policy change. And that idea is I present information, I'd ask the board to look at what is best for our students. Is a change best? That is something that yet to be determined as we look at some of the information, get community feedback, and we move forward. There's three areas I'm going to touch on when we're talking about considering a league change this evening. Evergreen's history in the NWAL, our student athlete success in the league, and current league movement, which is happening on a daily basis. There was another change today in Northwest Ohio with athletic leagues. So if we look at our history, the NWOAL is the oldest league in the state. We have not been a part of it in its entire history. The league was established back in 1926 with the teams up there. We joined in 69, left in 71, came back in 78. So we've got a 45-year history in the NWAL. If we look at how we've performed during that history, we have 22 league championships since 1976. Most being Archibald, Brian Wasion. If we look at that 45-year history and our 22 championships, what is the percentage? How do we fare out of 604 potential championship opportunities? We have 22 titles. We have 4 in boys athletics and 18 in girls. Out of those 22, 9 we were co-champions with other schools on a given year. So that history, again, it was a little shocking to me when I looked into how we have done historically in the league. Again, we've got titles for boys in basketball and football, in girls athletics, basketball, softball, track and field, volleyball, but there are a number of sports that we've never been league champions in the past 45 years. My goal for our student athletes, if they're entering a contest, is they should have the ability to be competitive. I would love to see every team going out onto the field or the court or the mat, knowing they have a 50-50 chance of winning each contest that's in the league. If we look at our history, our success rate is 3.6%. So that's a little bit concerning when we look at the history of how we have fared. We currently have the fewest NWOAL titles and a reputation of not being competitive in the league. Well, what contributes to that? A little bit, we can look at the size of the schools in the league, with Ryan and Wasion having significantly more students to draw from for their athletic teams. We've got some other schools that are comparable to us in size and a couple that are smaller. But our history of success is what we just looked at. what does it look like for the future? If we're looking at a potential league change, are our numbers going to go up? Is this something that may be offset by larger classes coming in? If you look at our elementary numbers, they're actually going down a little bit from historical numbers for the district. So if we take that in where we're currently at with our grades, well, again, how does that compare to some of the other schools in the league that have, are winning most of the titles? And I had mentioned Wassian and Bryan being significantly bigger. If we do a comparison of our upcoming classes to theirs, again, it's a little concerning that we're, significantly outnumbered with students and how that's going to relate to our athletic programs going forward. Archibald is closer to us in size, but still classes a little bit higher than ours coming up. Why now? Why are we looking at this? So to me, this is the big question. It's not that we necessarily have a choice. We were kind of forced into examining what the future may look like. We know that there was one member of the NWAL in the last year or so that had been looking to make a move. They did not do so yet. We've got Swanton now seeking approval to leave the NWAL, which could create another potential opening. If we look at schools that could potentially come in, if someone does leave, it's very unlikely that a school our size or smaller is going to come in. We know there's been interest from larger schools wanting to come in, schools like Napoleon and Bowling Green. So looking at our history of how we've performed and the potential for league movement, I think we need to be taking a proactive approach. And that's why we're looking at it, and that's why I'm presenting this information so the board can make an educated decision on what is best for our students. If another school comes in and we get locked in, and with movement, I'm sure you've seen in the news, there are a lot of news stories about leagues changing with the track and the NLL looking to expand. And we saw the NBC make a move with Elmwood leaving. Apparently, Maumee has accepted the invitation and is now moving into that vacant spot in the NBC. So I asked the board, do we want to be proactive or reactive? I'm hoping we're taking a proactive approach to make decisions that are, again, in the best interest of our students. If we're looking at it proactively, I would love for the school to be able to control its own destiny and not get either forced out of the league or forced into a position where the league is bringing in even larger schools and it's harder for us to compete. Ultimately, I would like to see our students more evenly matched in league competition. Again, we had been in discussion with Swanton, Delta, Ottawa Hills, Northwood, Montpelier, and Eden about a potential new league. Those are schools that are comparable to our size. When we heard there may be movement and the potential for larger schools to come in, that is still simply in the discussion phase. No decisions have been made. On the record, Swanton is ready to move forward, I believe. And I've heard verbally from Ottawa Hills and Northwood and Eden and Montpelier as well that, if everybody is on board, that is something they are open and willing to do and their boards would support. Delta, I am not sure where they are at, so I can't speak to them. Again, if that was a direction that was possible, how do those schools look numbers wise to us? Would that give us a more competitive advantage? Potentially. The numbers are closer to where we were at with, not having the Wassian and Bryan that are significantly larger. How would a change impact the district? Dr. Grime at Montpelier, again, he put this out to the schools that were part of that conversation. They were one of the founding members of the NWAL, Montpelier, and left a few years ago, and he had no regrets about doing so. And I'm not saying that's what we need to do, but we need to be looking at what the options are to best position our student athletes. there are benefits of staying, and we've got rivalries with schools in the league. We've been a member for 45 years, and that's significant. That has meaning. Those rivalries exist, and there's connections with the communities. But if we look at the opportunities that would come if something did change, and we would improve our potential for winning contests and league championships. Winning could change the culture the culture and climate in our building and among our programs. Could increase student and spectator participation. Would instill pride among the athletes, student body, and the community. Create a more competitive and winning culture throughout the district. And we would still have the opportunity to play our rivals through non-league contests. So, factors to consider going forward. We know what the tradition is with the league. We also know the reality as we look at how we've performed in the last 45 years. So, what we need to be questioning is what's truly best for our student athletes as we look if a change is on the horizon, are we doing what's in their best interest? And looking at the history, how can we not explore other league options when we know the changes are happening and are going to continue? It seems to have a domino effect throughout the area. And I just don't want us to be caught in a position where we don't have options. So I'd rather we're discussing it on the front end rather than being reactionary. Community input with a change of this nature is huge. We have a community forum scheduled for next Monday, March 29th at 7 p.m. in the gym. We're asking for questions to come in advance so that they can be addressed. I'll do a short presentation at the beginning of the meeting. We'll address the questions that have already come in and field questions from community members that are present. The next step after that, after the community forum, I would ask the board to reevaluate, see where we're at. Is there support for a change? Is there not? What do we think is best for the district moving forward? And proceed from there. Any questions? Yep.
It's on the website, Tony. The the page for the submit questions, like it's on the website, prominently featured. Okay, thank you. I don't have anything else.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time we'll move on to Ms. Strahan.
We're just coming back from spring break, so there isn't a lot to report at this time, but we are looking forward to starting the fourth quarter and getting our kids outside to play in the nice weather. We did extend our Life Touch yearbook orders. We did not have as many orders as we typically have, so we've extended that deadline to March 29th. Our spring picture day is March 31st. The flyers went home today. And all students will be photographed. It's up to parents if they choose to buy the pictures from Life Touch. Our Mini Viking parents made a donation to the elementary principal account to fund teachers' requests for things that they needed in the classroom. Some of the things that they voted to approve, the teachers had to submit a proposal, and then at the last MVP meeting, they decided to fund flexible seating that was actually washable So during the pandemic, they have to clean in between seatings, classroom library books, and some STEM materials for classrooms. And our MVP mini biking parents are always very supportive of things that our teachers and kids need in the classroom. We're starting to plan for the 21-22 school year, and teachers will start to begin creating class lists. We'll be looking at the master schedule so that we are making sure that we have put in our gifted services as well as our special education services, making sure that everyone's needs are met with our schedule, as well as our encore rotation. We're looking at improvements in the schedule based on the teacher's input as well. And we are in the process of hiring a full-time kindergarten teacher that will also be taking on the role as our kindergarten intervention teacher. And that's something that the teachers have been asking for quite some time. And I'm happy to say that we're actually getting to move forward with that. The staffing for next year will have 4 sections in each grade level, kindergarten through 4th grade, with 3 sections in 5th grade. And then the last thing, our grades 3 through 5 students will start taking the air testing on April 5th, and they will be tested in English language arts, math, and 5th grade will also take science. And we will be wrapping that up on May 5th. Students do not test every one of those days. We stay away from Monday testing, uh, giving the kids a little bit of time to get back into the swing of things. And then we have 2 testing days back to back for each grade level. It's just so that they're in the testing mode. The next day they come in, they know they're taking a test. So there's 2 tests per content area. That's all I have at this time. Do you have any questions?
Anybody have anything?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Roofer.
Good evening. All right, middle school. Sorry, I got a loud mouth normally. All right. Middle school, it's that crazy time of year. The kids and students, staff have been doing a wonderful job with the mask and all the safety protocols. So our PBIS committee decided as a team that we want to do something to kind of reward those kids, give them some downtime. So we ran on a 2-hour delay schedule on Friday, March 19th, and gave them the chance to watch a movie, kind of relax and have some downtime. So that was a good way to reward them, just get them ready for the last quarter. We have state testing coming up starting April 12th, and I just want during that time there'll be a 2-week time period for 6th and 7th graders, and then a 3-week time period for 8th graders, where there'll be no homework assigned to any students in the middle school building. We're going to use that time during that no new instruction period to really hammer away at those interventions and really just help those kids wherever they're at. And we also want kids going home and resting and relaxing and not stressing out about homework till all hours of the night. So that'll start on April 12th, and then for 8th graders, that'll go through the rest of April. On February 23rd, the middle school quiz bowl team competed against the staff in the annual staff versus student challenge. I will say the students did very well this year, and that's all I want to say about that. I was debating on bringing that up, but they did very well. And then they wrapped up their season at the ESC on March 11th in the tournament. I want to recognize Lori Cobb, who's led the student council. She put together it was a day during NNI 4th period in which kids were able to basically sign up for different activities, whether it was card games, watching a movie, bingo, all kinds of different things for one period. So she organized that, and along with the help of the student council. So thank you to her for that. And we're going to begin our scheduling process beginning this week. We're going to be meeting with each grade level and preparing, just explaining to them what the next year will be like. And then myself and Mrs. Brame and Dr. Swineford will be working on getting that schedule ironed out here in the weeks to come. And just a reminder, grade cards will go home on Friday, March 26th with the students.
Other than that, it's just that busy time of year, last quarter, state testing, IEP season. So hang on tight. That's all I have, unless there's questions.
Awesome. Thank you. Mr. Curtis.
Like Mr. Rubin said, it's a busy time of year. Lots of things are coming around here. Is that better? All right. Again, it's a busy time of year at the high school as well. It's hard to believe that we are looking at things like prom and graduation again. A month and a half ago, we had a group of parents that came together for the purposes of working towards generating funds for after prom and prom activities for students. As a result of the COVID pandemic, normally they've been well ahead by January and had almost prom and after prom paid for, ready to go. There are lots of things that we couldn't do up until about that time. So there's a large group of parents that have been meeting almost weekly for the past 6 weeks or so. Several different fundraisers that are going on to benefit prom and after prom. We're still awaiting some more formal guidance from our local health department as far as protocol is concerned, but we're hopeful to be able to share details for prom and after prom here in the coming week or two. I would like to extend a special thank you to a couple of parents that have been put in a ton of hard work on behalf of the after prom parents. Rosie Boger, Denise Pennington, Mindy Valentine, Lori Hine, and Aaron Scheller have all worked really hard and led up a variety of different fundraising ventures here for the after prom group. So thank you to them. March 1st, our senior letter went out to all Evergreen seniors and families. Detailed a calendar of events to discuss and make sure families were clear with what the end of the year would look like. Important dates for families and community members to look out for. All included in that letter, this will be the first year that our graduating seniors will be given the opportunity to keep their Chromebook. About, I believe it was 4 years ago when our one-to-one initiative started. The initial intent was after the fourth year that exiting graduating seniors would be given that opportunity to keep their Chromebook. So again, this is the first year that our seniors will be given that opportunity. We're really excited for that. Seniors will still have to turn in their Chromebook on May 18th to allow the technology folks to make sure they're assessing inventory and adjusting software, those sorts of things. But then students will be given the opportunity to come in and pick up their device to keep after graduation during the week of June 7th. Graduation yard signs and AP signs are either going out or have gone out already. I know in the past we've usually waited to hold off on graduation yard signs until graduation rehearsal right before graduation. Feedback we received last year from parents is they really like to kind of highlight them in their yard early. So as soon as the weather breaks, they really appreciated having those out in their yard. So we got those out here about a week and a half ago to all seniors. There are a couple that haven't picked them up quite yet, but I think families, I'm starting to see them out in the yards, and families are prideful of their son or daughter. They'll be walking across the stage here. And diploma distribution, just something I wanted to highlight to the board, and I highlighted in our parent letter. This would have been a factor last year, if you remember. 2 years ago, our graduation was on Memorial Day weekend. We've since moved. We planned on moving it up last year. Um, the issue that provided, or minor issue that provided, was since we're moving it up a week, schools like Fort County, other local area colleges and universities had are still sending their grades at the same time. So it makes it hard for us to finalize things like transcripts and diplomas and make sure we're handing a student a diploma that we know for sure has graduated with the appropriate state requirements. So what we're going to do this year, since we have to offer an opportunity for students to come back to pick up their Chromebook that first week of June, what they're going to be doing is when a student graduates, walks across the stage, they're going to be given a diploma jacket like they would any other time. The only difference is there won't be a physical high school diploma in that jacket, but during the week of June 7th, when they're coming in to pick up their Chromebook, they'll be able to pick up their high school diploma. Grades will be finalized at that time. We would normally have sent out a final high school transcript a graduation photo from Mr. Siefker after all of those things have been received. So we're going to do a one-stop shop the week of June 7th to allow kids to come in and pick up all of those things. And the bonus to that is it also saves the district money in a big mailer that we would normally send out to seniors. So I wanted families to know that ahead of time. Last thing I'd hate is for a student to be expecting a diploma on graduation day and not seeing it. So that will be coming up here soon. Ben Saunders, I'd like to highlight, is an Evergreen student who has participated in 2 different programs for the American Legion, both the Americanism in Government and the Oratorical Contest. Ben won an all expenses paid trip to Gettysburg as a result of the Americanism in Government project, and he also placed first in the county and in the district and 5th in the state in the Oratorical Contest. We are, as far as scheduling is concerned, Dr. Swineford has been leading the process here. We're moving along, and we should hopefully be tying up a master schedule here soon. We're really excited about what that's going to look like on a traditional platform next year. Ariana Mccabe is an Evergreen 10th grader who has been taking taking coursework or completing her junior year in Spain. She's one of the only students that I'm aware of in past years who has been able to participate in an exchange program in Spain. So the many different obstacles that we're working through in the United States here with related to COVID, she's doing that alongside peers in a different language in a whole nother country. So we're excited to see her return for next year for her junior year and hear some of her stories and some of her experiences. Last but not least, we are here in the high school. I know the plan before the pandemic started was to work through a transition of different furnishings here in the building. I know specifically our student desks. Some of them are desks that were brought over from the old building before the high school was renovated in 2000. So I know when we have our budgeting meetings, I'll be working with Mr. Carroll to talk about a long-term plan to make sure we're cycling those things out efficiently as possible and making sure that we've got a plan to replace those things as necessary. So unless there are any questions, that's all I've got.
Thank you. All right, Angela.
Good evening. I just wanted to piggyback off of what Mr. Curtis had said about sending the survey that got sent home for those high school seniors. They will be able to take their Chromebooks with them. They just need to make sure that they've got all of their financials taken care of, any of their fees or protection plans or any of that need to be taken care of. State testing update, we've got the app loaded on all the Chromebooks so that the students can start doing some practice tests with their Chromebooks for the state testing. We also have purchased new Chromebooks for grades 3, 6, and 9. Those should be arriving sometime within the next month. We ordered those back in December, knowing that the supply and demand was going to be hard to get with COVID and the pandemic and so on. We've also purchased new interactive boards for the high school and the elementary. You'll see that we don't have them listed as purchasing for the middle school because there are Clever Touches that are only a year old that are at the elementary that we're going to move to the middle school. So we will be replacing those as well as adding 5 more additional interactive boards at the elementary level. That will get us to where we are about 2 years away from having our 5-year forecast in of having the interactive boards in every classroom where we see fit. We've also purchased new MacBook Airs for the elementary staff. That also is on our 5-year rotation for getting them up to date. Their current Chromebooks are about 6 years old, so we're definitely in need of getting those in the buildings. We just recently sent off 28 of our iPads from the elementary to a company called Tech Defenders for them to purchase. They purchase all old technology and recycle that. We also will be sending them Chromebooks this summer that won't be used here in the district, because as we go through that rotation, we inevitably will end up with Chromebooks that we don't need. And we're trying to keep it so that we get rid of not the newest ones, but obviously try to keep that in a rotation where we get the most money out of them as quick as we can get it back. We met with DataServe Nowaka on updating our wireless network in the district. We just recently signed in on a 5-year contract with them to update all of our wireless access points across the whole district. What that means is every classroom will have a access point in it, so that we don't have to worry about connectivity issues for state testing and all the online things that the students are doing in the classroom. Other than that, I don't have anything else. If you have any questions.
think so. Mr. Mola.
Just a couple items to add. I would like to thank Kim Smallman, Metamora State Bank, and Matt Vakulik for providing breakfast to our district staff on Monday, March 1st. Their time, generosity, and great food was appreciated by everyone, so thank you. The state has confirmed spring testing will be required this year for grades 3 through 12. The testing window runs from April 1st to May 7th. In the high school, AP exams are from April 17th to May 27th. Exams will be in school in a blend of paper, pencil, and digital format. And then looking ahead to next year, we anticipate the need for a virtual option for our families for the next school year. We are reviewing the VVA protocols that we had in place for families this year and considering this method of instruction moving forward. How do we better serve the families who want the online format? Any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Carroll.
I do have one correction I'd like to make on here. Under the financials, under item D,
Okay.
the accept tax rates, that should be for fiscal year 22. Just wanted to make that note.
Okay. So fiscal year 22.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Any board members with questions or concerns? All right, then at this time, we need a motion for the members of Evergreen Local Board of Education, treasurer, superintendent, and invited guests to go into executive session for the following reasons: to prepare for negotiations or bargaining session, compensation and other terms and conditions of employment, to consider the employment and or compensation of public employees or officials. Awesome. All right, at this time, high school students, you can get your papers, and I'm gonna.
Can I have a roll call? No, you're fine. Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Smith, Mr. Vakulik,
Yes.
Mr. Murray,
Yes.
Mrs. Kiefer.
Yes, motion carries.